Influencing popular culture, politics, and everything in between. The local station takes you ringside as we discuss the crazy world that is professional wrestling. This is Going Ringside with the local station.
Hello, I'm Scott Johnson. Welcome to Going Ringside. Glad you could be with us for a packed episode today. Grayson Waller is here, the WWE bad boy, so to speak. We'll be here in a little bit. But first, I want to talk to you about last week, one of our most viewed episodes ever. It is trending all over the internet, gone viral, and that would be our interview with Kane, Mayor Glenn Jacobs. When he came on and talked to me about some political advice for The Rock, the indie wrestler Cocaine, doing stuff with The Undertaker and Trump, the entire world started tuning in. It is trending. There are clips all over social media. Go back and check it out right now. And also, Allie the Bunny, formerly of AEW, was with us last week. Go check out that Pack show as well. It got huge numbers for us. The entire wrestling world is talking about it. Episode 92 last week. Go check it out. Great interview with Kane and Allie the Bunny. And today, we got a lot going on. Grayson Waller is here, the WWE bad boy, so to speak. Comes on. He knows how to generate heat. He's as good as anyone. We've had him on before, and he's back here because WWE Holiday Tour is right around the corner. They're going to be in our neck of the woods in Jacksonville, December 26th. Tickets are still available at the ViStar Veterans Memorial Arena. First time we've seen them in our area in a long time. And of course, the Holiday Tour all over the country. So check your area if you're not where we're at and want to check out the WWE Holiday Tour. We'll be talking to Grayson about that in just a bit. He also takes a bit of a shot at our hometown football team, which is coincidentally owned by the AEW owning family, the Khans. So you want to hear what he says about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Grayson, like usual, doesn't pull any punches. Talks a little about Austin Theory and his teammate in 2025. What's next for Grayson Waller? Coming up, stay tuned. Right after that, friend of the show, Desiree Josen with the Chutes and Ladders podcast will be back to break down kind of Grayson's meteoric rise in the wrestling ranks in just this short amount of time. And then later on in the show, Victoria Crawford is back. You knew her better as Alicia Fox, and she is turning the tables on me. I will not be the interviewer. I will be the interviewee. Victoria decided, she asked me, Scott, why don't we interview you? Because they wanted to know about this show, Going Ringside. If you're a wrestling fan and you're not from Jacksonville, you may have no idea who I am. If you're from Jacksonville, you know I'm the guy that does the news. But others are a little confused, like, what's this show that came out of nowhere that the biggest stars in the world are coming on every week? Victoria thought it'd be a good idea to grill me for a while about what this show is, how it came to be, and how it became so globally popular in such a short amount of time. So Victoria's going to help me tell that story later on in the show. You'll want to see that. But first, we got to talk to the SmackDown bad boy. Grayson Waller is here, and he just right out of the gate kind of takes a dig at me, so it was kind of fun. But here is how we're going to start things. Let's get to it. WWE megastar. Here's Grayson Waller. Well, we are excited to be rejoined again on the show by one of the more outspoken wrestlers you will ever see really in history, Grayson Waller. Grayson, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Man, this is starting to get frustrating how many times I have to talk to you. This is why they don't tell me who I'm talking to, because they know I would say no. So you're very lucky, but I'm here to talk about wrestling in Jacksonville. We'll come back again. Very excited.
I appreciate that. This is why I made sure I didn't put a face with the name. Talk to me about the Holiday Tour. This is a big deal for you guys. You do it every year, but you haven't been here for 5 years on the Holiday Tour.
Yeah, the Holiday Tour is a lot of fun. My first one was last year, and there's just something different about it. I think everyone in general, whether it's the fans, whether it's the wrestlers, everyone's in a good spirit. Everyone's there to have a good time. And it's kind of a little bit of the stress of the WWE from our side is kind of off because we're enjoying the holidays and we're out there to put on a show. And it's in Florida. A lot of us from Florida. So this time, we're just driving around, going to these shows, going to feel kind of like some old school wrestling vibes driving around the state. And it's going to be a lot of fun.
So I just learned main event possibly this night. Cody Rhodes, Solo Sikoa, cage match. This is a big match for these two.
Yeah, a little bit frustrated because I actually asked Santa for Christmas that I could slap Cody Rhodes in the face again because that's a lot of fun. Classic Santa not giving me what I wanted. But that's a huge match, especially with everything happening right now. Cody and Solo, that's a that's a wild match, especially in a cage. If anyone saw what they did last time in the cage, I'm kind of glad that's not me in there doing that stuff a day after Christmas.
You mentioned the slap. What's it like for you and Cody backstage? Is there tension?
I think Cody's on his bus, lad. Cody's enjoying the high life. He's sponsored by his vodka brand. He's enjoying life on the bus. But people tend to keep away from Grayson Waller, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
So I wanted to ask you, what's it like for you? Because I don't think I've ever seen you do an interview where there's not an insult. What's it like for a fan if they hang out with you? No cameras around, no other. Do they get insulted too?
I'm not, I'm not one of those flop wrestlers that hangs out with fans. That kind of cringes me out. So, if you want to come up to me, maybe I'm eating dinner, maybe you see me out, feel free to say hello, but that's as far as it goes. Like, those fans that stay around, try and have a conversation. I'm a busy guy. I got my mates in life. I don't need new ones, especially not wrestling fans. So, there is a high chance if you're a fan of the WWE and you come say hi to Grayson Waller, you're going to find out an honest truth about yourself. But that's a positive. That's a great thing about life, to find out honest truths about yourself.
What's going on with you and Theory right now?
Dude, we're best mates. Me and Theory, I would say the best tag team in the world right now. Obviously, we're having some issues trying to tighten up our stuff and start hitting our strides like we did at Mania earlier in the year. But the SmackDown tag division right now is pretty heavy. They've just brought in the Motor City Machine Guns, who they've been tagging together for 20 years almost. Me and Theory, we've only been tagging for about a year. So we've kind of got to find our advantages and work our way back to those goals.
What was it like to get Motor City Machine Guns in? I mean, it's not often you get teams that just have such a strong lineage.
Yeah, and being someone who, when I was growing up, a teenager, I used to love watching the Motor City Machine Guns, So very cool that we have them here in the WWE. They obviously deserve it. They've done so much elsewhere. It's great to have them here. But now they've got to find out what it is to be in the WWE, And I stood across from them. I had to actually get on my knees to go eye level so I could probably, look them in the eyes and talk to them like that. But I think they're finding out that the quality of tag team wrestling, especially on SmackDown, is very high. And right now they're the tag team champions. So I can't really say anything too mean, especially because they beat us last week. Still very upset about that. But it's really good having the best in the world, being the best company in the world.
So we're approaching the holiday tour, the end of the year. And once the end of the year is over, we start that long build up to Mania. What's up for Grayson Waller in 2025?
I think 2025 is going to be a big year. And whether that's with Austin Theory, maybe we do our own thing. Who knows? That's the fun thing about the new year. New things happen, and especially with the WrestleMania coming up in Vegas, it's going to be massive. So me and Theory right now, our eyes are focused on those tag team championships. Whoever has them, we need to take them. And I'm undefeated at WrestleMania. People forget about that. The Undertaker's not undefeated at WrestleMania, but I am. So I'm looking to continue the streak.
You rank yourself. Do you think you could eclipse what Taker did? You brought up his name.
Well, he lost. He lost multiple times at WrestleMania. I haven't done that, The GOATs of WrestleMania don't lose. People like me, people like Snooki, people like Nicholas, the undefeated champions of WrestleMania. That's our show.
You're up there with Snooki.
Yeah, and I'm very proud to say that. Extremely proud to say that.
You mentioned Cody and Solo. I want to name a couple other WWE superstars. Just pick your brain, get your thoughts on them. One right now, Gunther. Thoughts on him? I'm
glad he's on Raw, lad. I think chops are the worst move in wrestling. Me and Theory think very similarly. Extremely painful. And Gunther has the worst chops in the game, so I'm glad my chest is protected. But I think right now I think he's been one of the best in the world for a very long time, and it's good to see him now getting that due and getting that shine on the biggest stage. We had a guy on last week on my show who says he may be coming back to WWE soon. Goldberg. Any thoughts on Bill Goldberg? I have a lot of thoughts about Bill Goldberg, but obviously we've seen from the past that people have thoughts about Bill Goldberg. He has no problem addressing those thoughts. But, Goldberg is someone I obviously watched growing up. I think a lot of people did, and I think it's cool that he's going to go out on top. He's going to come back for one last match, whoever that's against. That's going to be big. I know Bron Breakker, who isn't a fan of Grayson Waller, has definitely told Goldberg about me. That spear is still dangerous, so I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself today, which is very rare. But I'm trying to be more intelligent, trying to be smart about who I say things about. Well, I'll see where you go with this one. Dominic Mysterio. Oh, Dominic's a sick lad. I love Dom. You know, if Dom was on SmackDown, I think he'd drop those emo flops and come and hang out with me. In theory, we'd have a good time.
Liv Morgan?
Hey, I have nothing but good things to say about Liv Morgan. I think Liv is extremely talented, doing a very good job as a champion right now. You know, she's another one. If she was on SmackDown, I think she'd be hanging out with me in theory in those little emo flops in their purple dungeon. She might leave them behind.
Another guy who keeps making headlines, I don't know if it's for good or bad, it would be Kevin Owens. He's a little brutal of a guy there.
It's so funny because I told people for so long what Kevin was going to do. Like, I literally showed a video to the world to be like, this is who Kevin Owens is. Like, the thing is, I am me. You know, you see me, I tell people I'm a horrible person. Kevin was hiding it. Kevin went back to me, no, I'm changed. And now look what he's doing. I love it. It makes me happy. It makes me right. And now, you know, we had problems with Kevin for about a year, but now all of a sudden we're looking at the same people as enemies. So I'd love to have a conversation with Kevin, but right now, you know, he's not really backstage. I've heard he's kind of banned from arenas. He's sneaking his way in, that type of thing. But I think when I have a conversation with Kevin, it's going to be very interesting.
Another guy we had on the show a few weeks ago who I think back in the day you dealt with would be Shawn Michaels. How do you think he's doing in his backstage job?
I think the reason NXT is doing so well right now is obviously because of the athletes and the wrestlers who are down there doing a good job. But I think Shawn Michaels is the reason NXT is where it's at. He got given a job that he didn't necessarily want, and he's found real passion for it. And now he's so invested in all those people. And Shawn's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Personally, we don't get along, but that's okay. I think having him down there in NXT is only a positive thing.
I want to get your thoughts on something you said on our show earlier this year. Our football team has been struggling. The Jacksonville Jaguars, you mocked the Jaguars. You got fans who are going to be their fans coming out to see you in Jacksonville. Do you regret the comment on the Jaguars at all?
My Philly Eagles played the Jaguars. They gave us a bit of a scare, but at the end of the day, we got the win. I think for the fans in Jacksonville, go to Ticketmaster now. Get your tickets on December 26th because there's going to be no joy coming from the Jaguars. They are horrendous. Like, not even Santa Claus himself, the king of magic, basically, could make Trevor Lawrence be a good quarterback. It's physically impossible. So if you want to have a good time at Christmas, don't go watch the Jaguars. Don't pay attention. Come down to Vice Stars Memorial Arena and come watch the WWE and get some joy in your life because I know the people of Jacksonville need it.
I think they call this heel heat. Is that what they call it?
This is reality. This is me talking real. Like, watch the Jaguars on the weekend. Watch Trevor Lawrence flip his hair out of his eyes and throw a pick. Then come talk to me.
Grayson Waller, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks again for joining us, Grayson.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Well, we're joined again this week by a friend of the show, Desiree Josen, with the Chutes and Ladders podcast. Desiree, before we start, where can people find Chutes and Ladders podcast? How do they learn all about it?
You can find us. We have new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on YouTube and Spotify, and interact with us on Instagram and Facebook.
And what will they get if they check out the show?
You're going to get so much fun. We're covering AEW, WWE, any major PLEs, and any past favorite matches.
So we had Grayson Waller on, a guy we've had on before. He starts out the interview by saying to me, if I had known it was you, I wouldn't have agreed to this interview, which is classic Grayson Waller. Not many people have great natural heel ability.
No, and I think that's one of his best selling points. He's very cocky, he's very confident, and he's good at what he does, and everyone loves to hate him. So
I asked him in the interview about you and Austin Theory, and he says, yeah, we're still great together. Do you think that's going to last? No, and true to every tag team, they're eventually going to split. One is going to turn, and I don't see it happening right now, but I see down the road, I feel like he's going to be the one to turn on Austin. And when they're finally separated, who do you think gets the push, Theory or Waller? I mean, I think, personally, Theory's got the look, Waller's got the charisma, the attitude. I think so. I think they're going to play Austin as the baby face. Of course, he's going to remain the heel. I can see him going after the IC title real quick. So? Yeah. So I didn't ask him about it in this interview, but we've talked to him about it before. Grayson Waller pissed a lot of people off about a year ago when he goes out and calls Taylor Swift a 6. What did you think of that whole drama?
I thought it was hilarious and one of the best things that he could do to market himself.
You think it was?
Yes.
So the Swifties went off on him.
And that's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted.
That's what he wanted.
So he doubled down. I remember the X post. I wish I should have prepared it. So he essentially just, after they went off, he responded on X, just destroying these mostly young female fans.
It was hilarious. He called them marks, and I'm like, well, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But, oh, God, his just response to Travis Kelce saying, you know, I'm glad you're settling. You did your best. And that apology was
Do you think he was fishing for a feud with Kelce?
Yes.
Oh, you think?
Absolutely. He wants that attention. He wants that heat, and he got it.
If he had got the Travis Kelce feud to make it a reality, that would have been the biggest thing that could ever happen.
And I know he's a fan of his brother's team.
That's right. So. I was, because I didn't, Jason Kelce was at Mania this past year. I was surprised. I honestly thought Grayson might have been able to pull it off, but some producers that I work with were saying, he doesn't care about Grayson Waller.
He probably doesn't, but I mean, we know Travis Kelce is a wrestling fan because
he wore the belt and everything at the parade.
He calls everybody a jabroni and everything, so I think he would be down for a feud.
Do you think Grayson has top of the card in him?
I still think he's got some work to do to just get his feet more wet and just build more of his character, but yes, I see it down the line, yes.
I think we need to see him in a one-on-one feud.
I think so.
An intense feud. I don't know who that's with.
I don't either. Maybe LA Knight. That would be fun to see two charismatic guys go at it.
Yeah, so LA Knight. But do you think you will see gold on him this year?
I mean, potentially. I mean, I know they won.
Tag team or not tag team?
I would say tag team for now. Then later on, maybe gold for him down the line. But yeah, I mean, I know they won them at WrestleMania, which was huge for them. So I can see it again.
Well, thank you again for joining us. One more time on how people find Chutes and Ladders podcast.
Chutes and Ladders on Spotify and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And let's get to our next segment. Well, now we're going to try something I'm a little nervous about. Victoria Crawford is back, but real quickly, we haven't seen her in a few weeks. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And you are going to put me on the hot seat because a lot of people I know have wondered, you know, what is this Going Ringside show? Like, they know, like, Busted Open Radio. They know Conrad Thompson's shows. They know Chris Van Vliet's show. And then they see this random bald guy in Florida doing a show. So you've been telling me people have had questions.
Yes, exactly. So I'm here to bring them to you.
Okay.
All right. So, hey, guys, Victoria Crawford and our lovely host, Scott.
Yes.
From Going Ringside. So, Scott, I really would love the people to know kind of a little bit about your journalism background and what interests you, I guess, maybe in the similarities to professional wrestling.
Sure. So if you live in Jacksonville, where we're at, and you're watching this, you probably know who I am. But if you don't, you probably have no clue who I am. I do the news. We're actually on the set where we do our news right now. We just put the Going Ringside. I do the news here in Jacksonville. And I've been here for 20 plus years. I've been doing TV news for 30 years. Never have I done wrestling. I think I interviewed Jimmy Hart once, and I marked out as a fanboy like 20 years ago. I interviewed Kevin Nash one time, and that was about it. I don't know anyone in wrestling. I have no friends. Now I do, but I didn't at the time. I didn't know anything about wrestling. And I was just a journalist every day, and not like a journalist like I did a story once, like 5 days a week for 30 years, knocking on killers' doors and interviewing politicians and stuff like that, like every single day of my life. This is what I do. And so our company, because people don't watch TV news like they used to anymore, we're like, we've got to get to people other ways, and podcasts are huge. So we did, at our TV station here, we did like a political show. We did a business show, like things that you expect on the news. Someone made a joke because they knew I was like a wrestling fan. Well, what about Scott does a wrestling show? I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's insane. You want a news station? We're the top rated news station, highest ratings for 60 years in the state of Florida, to do something on wrestling? But we have, you know, AEW across the river.
Yeah, that's right.
And we weren't covering it. my people who work with me didn't even know what AEW was. So they said, we think this is a great idea. And we've been doing it about 1.5 years now. And a lot of our viewers in the news are like, what is this corny wrestling stuff? Why are you doing it? Well, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it. And I love doing it. And I love that people think it's like, why is the guy on the news talking about wrestling? Because no one else does that.
Yeah.
So I thought it's funny.
So what are your favorite, I guess, story themes that you share with the people that help them understand what professional wrestling is, you know?
Yeah. So my whole world is surrounded by people who have no idea anything about wrestling. I'm like the guy. Everyone goes to me, but they don't get it. And I'm trying to explain to my staff what it is. And they're like, well, I had a supervisor sit down with me. It's fake, isn't it? And I said, it's not fake. It is a scripted television show. It's a scripted television show like a movie is, like a TV show is. There's a scripted television show. We're not talking about like indie world, which is its own world. But
I mean, wrestling's broad. So, I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully the folks that are also looking at this are wrestling fans. So they
understand
immersed
it.
in
They understand
They
it.
understand what Scott's
And you
speaking
probably have
about.
to do it with, like family members, friends who don't watch it. You have to explain, they're like, what's that fake stuff that John Cena does? And you're
Right.
like, well, it's not fake. It's a scripted, as far as like WWE or AEW, it's a scripted television show. And I have to explain that to them. And more have started to get it. And one thing that's happened in the last 2 years, because we do this show, and this is what I'm most proud of, and no one knows it. I've noticed TV stations in Cincinnati, Orlando, St. Louis, Oregon, Los Angeles, all just randomly doing news stories on wrestling, interviewing wrestlers on their morning shows, bringing them on their entertainment shows. This did not happen 5 years ago. They're doing it because they heard what our TV station in Jacksonville is doing.
Correct.
They don't quite understand it, but they're like, well, people watch this. We've had TV stations call our TV station like, how do we do this wrestling stuff? I'm glad they don't start their own show because I don't want the competition. But if you live in a city, if you live in Texas or Wisconsin or wherever, and you start seeing your local news station doing like clips on wrestling, there's a reason. They watched what we were doing here, and they're like, there's a fan base there.
Yes, absolutely.
We want to do it. And the other area where we've impacted things, as you know, and we've talked a lot about, I've done a lot of overlap of politics and wrestling, more than probably any show. Because it's what I do. My main job is I do politics. A year ago, because through journalism, I know the Trump campaign, I said, hey, I'd like Donald Trump to come on the show. And I sent them a video a year ago that said, I'd like him to talk about Hulk Hogan, Dana White, Linda McMahon, and I can't remember the other one. 9 months later at the Republican National Convention, who are their guest speakers on the final night? Linda McMahon, Dana White, Hulk Hogan.
Awesome.
Then other wrestlers start getting into it. Then the Trump campaign's like, we need to do more wrestling stuff. They go on Undertaker's podcast because they remembered what they did with us. I think Jimmy Kimmel might have had Dave Bautista doing Trump stuff because there was more stuff. We've been influencing this stuff behind the scenes. It's just weird. I never thought our show would have any sort of power like that.
Interesting. So that's kind of the secret.
That's the secret
sauce. It's like the influence behind the scenes, which is important for the
It's
economic.
important to me because I want wrestling to be more mainstreamed. In my experience doing this, everyone comes to me and says, oh, what's that corny? They don't even get what it is. It's just this corny thing that kids watch. And I'm like, this is just shy of NFL
Yeah,
or
it's a
NBA.
business.
It is a major multi-billion-dollar business. And then when my company started noticing Hulk Hogan speaking at the convention, what the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight, even though that's boxing, did, the UFC WWE merger, Linda McMahon's in the presidential cabinet. They're like, wow, this is a massive thing. And we like to document it here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And so I guess in my experience, you know, our business is very sacred. It's very shared amongst us. There's so many dynamics. It's why it's loved so deeply, you know. However, when you're talking about broadband news and covering like a topic such as professional wrestling, like, you know, other than the influence, how can it keep it safe and protected and, you know, have a place for people to share their perspective and opinion? You know, it might not be, there is no right or wrong in wrestling or in conversation. So how to expand what we are all looking at as far as the same values?
I was scared when I came to the business because I understand. I've just been a fan. I'm not in the wrestling business. I don't know people. I've been a fan since Hulk Hogan, and I've always watched. I'm not a guy in it. And I once heard, and I respect this statement, that Ric Flair, it was something along the lines of, we don't like those wrestling marks that host shows. It exposes the business and hurts the business. And I respect that statement. I totally get that. And I knew I'm, by doing this, one of those guys. But still, I like the fact that we've been mainstreaming it more. I want it to be more mainstream, more understood. And it's done that so much with The Rock and John Cena and Logan Paul, and it is what it is. But I'd like to help where I can to mainstream it a little more. And I think it's good for people to understand it's a business. Like, we did this Hatchet Wrestling School in St. Augustine. Dexter Loomis, you know, from WWE, Sam Shaw's his real name, hosts a school. And I talk to people, they're like, there's a school for it? Like, it's this whole industry. It's this whole world, and I like to show it. I mean, everyone is very comfortable talking about the NFL world. Everyone's comfortable talking about the NBA world, but wrestling still gets that unfair stigma. Sure, it's a scripted television show, we understand that, but it's a massive thing that millions and millions of people tune in every week to. And here in our city, in Jacksonville, where it's pretty much headquartered with what Tony Khan did with AEW. So I just liked mainstreaming it more, and people still don't get it. So every week I'm trying to explain more and more what it is. Like, people were joking about my show that I work with. They're like, oh, you're doing body slams in the studio. I'm like, I'm not wrestling in the studio. They don't get it why people would like it or why people. So I like to be a bridge to the world that I live in that knows nothing about wrestling.
So there's other wrestling podcasts such as like Jim Cornette. There's like Zeb, you know, there's
Zeb Coulter.
Zeb Coulter.
I tried to get him on once.
He's amazing. There were other, you know, talent that had podcasts and things, and they all share their different dynamics and stuff. But there's also some that start to share the insight on the algorithm, the numbers, the views, and they find that important. Then, you know, there's certain segments that I guess would the general public be interested in, or is that?
Well, that's one thing I have to do, because, like, I would love it if I had a built-in fan base like Conrad Thompson has, or Busted Open, and I could just get into the nitty-gritty of SummerSlam 1992, and should Davey Boy have gone over on Bret Hart? Like, I would love to do that. But unfortunately, I can't, because I don't have the built-in audience that they do yet. And I have to put it on the news each week, which is what we do. We talk about, the show's going to be on the news. We'll talk about it on the news. And I need the general public to understand it. So I try to do as broad-based topics as I can. Dwayne Johnson running for president, or, of course, the big interviews, which I want to talk more about. You know, we had Kane on last week, and Kane was huge. And I talked a little about Trump, because I want our general viewers, when I put it on the news, to understand it and know why they should tune in. Like when we had you on, huge numbers, because we have a lot of viewers on the news, and they all knew you from growing up around here.
Oh, yeah.
So when Victoria Crawford was on, they're like, oh, I want to see what's going on in her life. So it's something I have to do. I have to explain. So like when I had Haku on. So I would love to just talk about Haku and all these little things, but I have to make it understandable to a broad audience. So I'm like, this is the toughest man of all time. Everyone's scared of Haku. When I had, I'm trying to think, when I had the AEW guy on, their champ. Swerve, I'm sorry, thank you. I know Swerve. We've had Swerve on a couple times, and I knew Swerve would not be known to my general news audience. So I had to make the show about, he just won the world title. Major thing for AEW. I have to portray it in a way that someone who doesn't know wrestling would care about. I would love it if we can keep getting the fan base like Jim Cornette, and I can get into the nitty-gritty backstage stuff. I can't. And I'm also caught in the middle because, like, Cornette can be a personality. Bubba Ray or Bully Ray can be a personality. I still have my day job of anchoring the news.
Which is interesting. It's very interesting.
So I can't go on a tirade against Vince Russo.
Right.
Not that I would, but I can only be so controversial. Chris Van Vliet, who does Inside, does a great job. He comes from a similar background to me, so that's the closest analogy for me. I can't be Bully Ray. I could never be Bully Ray. Bully Ray's one of the greatest tag team guys of all time.
Totally.
Like, I could never be that. I don't have that character. I'm a random guy on the news talking about pro wrestling.
Well, that's why I think this conversation is so important, because we can ask people, like, what y'all want to know, like, what kind of segments do you want to see, how to organize, build
and one thing I want to talk about, because you brought it up to me, is you have so many friends. You know everyone in this business. And
Stop.
But, like, they're like, I don't know if I should go on that guy's show. Is he, like, going to start grilling me like I'm on the news? Like, that's not what I want this show to be about.
You heard it here, y'all.
I don't want to be like this gotcha news guy. That's not what this show is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've told you I want this to be the biggest wrestling talk show in the world, because I never thought we'd start getting all these stars on. We've had them, almost all of them on. But I'm here to put you over. If you're a star and you come on my show, I'm here to make you look good. If you're a heel, I want to put you over. If you're a baby face, whatever, that's what I want to do. I want to put your show over. But it was hard when I started because no one knew who I was. So I'm like, well, I've got to start doing things that I'm good at. So when Ted DiBiase Jr. got in trouble with the law, I covered that. Vince McMahon stuff, I covered that. I do all these things because that's what I know how to do. I wasn't friends with all these wrestlers. They didn't know who I was. So now that I'm starting to get to know them, I'm like, I want the talk show to be fun. And I want to put people over and help you sell whatever it is you're selling, be it a pay-per-view or a podcast that you're on. That's what I want the show to be, but I'm just trying to get there.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I totally respect that. And that's what's interesting, too, because our sport is current events. It's like in current events, it's in conversations over the dinner table, so there is a way to integrate both conversations, totally, and make it entertaining, informational.
And I also want to bring in, wrestling media gets knocked a lot. A lot.
Guys, yes.
Just, Sean Ross Sapp does a great job. I've had a couple Twitter back and forth with Wrestling News, do a great job. And they do a little more fun stuff than maybe I do. They do a great job, but I hope that I can bring in some credibility to this world. Because wrestling news is a joke. To wrestling fans, it's a joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if the general public even knows there's a wrestling media, but fans know, the marks know, and they make fun of wrestling media. I'm hoping that I can show, hey, we got some credibility here.
Totally, and that would be really fun too, because every time we've talked about the development of this, it's, when you mention a wrestling talk show, I keep thinking of, I don't want to use The View as like the main and
but hey,
here, but
it's a good premise of what I would love.
Right, like all of us. But I think since it's such a broad industry, and we both want to give back to the industry, not take what, we're not thieves, we want to give back. But I think it's nice and easy to have a little structure, routine. We'll figure that.
And I'm having a problem. I'm marking out for all these people secretly. I'm trying to pretend I'm like a news guy. Like when I did that, we did these things with, I host the panel with Trish and Lita. I'm like, I can't believe I'm doing this right now.
Which is really cool. I know exactly.
Sergeant Slaughter in an upcoming episode puts me in a headlock, or the Cobra Clutch. And I'm like, Sergeant Slaughter's giving me the Cobra Clutch right now. And it's so hard for me to go back to my work, and I tell them all about it. They don't even know why that's exciting. I'm like, you don't understand.
But we think it's exciting. So that's why, getting to know Scott is important. Getting to know this platform is important. Getting to know the people that are influencing our industry is important, because we're all like fans.
I'm just here to
we're all part
help
of it.
to grow the industry and to get people to watch. And I choose my topics just based on what I have in front of me. So like I did a lot of politics the last few months because I have access to that. I'm at the Republican National Convention with Donald Trump. I'm talking to Donald Trump a few weeks ago. So obviously I'm going to talk about what I have, and I know that no one else in wrestling is doing that.
Yeah.
So, with the exception of The Undertaker, so I can do that. It's why I got Linda McMahon on the show. I'll tell you my Linda McMahon story.
Oh, I love
when I almost got tackled by the Secret Service. I've never shared this on the show before because I felt a little awkward, but it's been a little while now. So, as a journalist, I covered the Republican National Convention, the Democratic National Convention. When we were there, I kept bothering my crew. I'm like, we got to find Kane and we got to find Linda McMahon, and I got to get my interview with Donald Trump. Trump didn't work out. It's another story. I was able to track down Kane. We've had him on twice. The first time was we had Kane on, and then we're walking through, and I hear this woman say something about WrestleMania on a loudspeaker, and I'm like, what is going on? And I look, and Linda McMahon's on a stage. I'm like, oh my God, it's Linda McMahon. So I had to be on the news. I called my station. It says, cancel. I'm not on the news. Linda McMahon's here. So she's like speaking with all these political people on a stage, and I can't get to her. There's like a barrier. So I run up, and I'm all excited. And then she gets off the stage, and I'm like, well, how am I going to get Linda? And she goes behind this black curtain. Mm-hmm. So I start peeking behind the curtain. Then I notice all these plainclothes guys with earphones like what I'm wearing right now start kind of walking toward me. I'm like, what is going on? I found out she was back there with the Trump family. And I'm like, I need to stop right now and just calm down. This is not just me trying to get an interview with Linda. Like, I'm about to get tackled.
Oh my gosh.
Fortunately, I just waited an hour later. Linda walked out. It was very nice, very gracious. We talked to her for a few minutes, and I was like, we got Linda McMahon on the show. But that was my story of getting Linda McMahon. So, and one thing I do is, as a journalist, 60% of my job is convincing people to go on television that don't want to be there, be it that someone whose family just died, a killer, a politician, random people in parking lots, every single day of my life. So that's one skill I have, is convincing people to go on television, which is why we've had so many on the show, and a lot more to come in coming weeks.
I love that. I have to write that down. 60% of people who don't want to be on TV.
Well, no, 60% of my job is convincing people. Like, most people don't want to be on TV. And so, and to do that as a journalist, and this is not just, I've done it for a week, I've done it for decades. I track people to their homes, I call them, I do whatever, and it sounds bad, but it's what you have to do, get stuff on the news every night. So when it came to trying to find people to come on the show, I already know how to do that. Mm-hmm. That's, you know what, that's how I tracked you down and started calling you. And we went up and you were River City Wrestling Con. Ma'am, can we ask you questions? And you were caught off guard.
Yeah.
But that's just what I do. I've only had a few say no, but most have said yes, which is good.
That is so interesting.
And it's my favorite thing about interviewing wrestlers is they're better than pro athletes, they're better than politicians, because they can be on like that. They know how to work in front of a camera. Pro wrestlers are the best interviews.
That's awesome. And you've had millions of great interviews. Who's your favorite?
I love talking to Eric Bischoff.
Oh, yes.
Because he's kind of a media guy like me, so I loved picking his brain. The darkest interview I ever did, which just kind of started going this way, and I was like, wow, this is really hard-hitting good stuff, is Jake Roberts, Jake the Snake. Mm-hmm. He just started, because, you know, Jake's an open book. And Lita and Trish were good. I was honestly sweating bullets and a little starstruck at that point.
Oh, that's so cool.
So they were good. Kane was wonderful. Kane was a very relatable, good guy. We've had him on twice, and he's a politician, so I'm kind of used to that kind of it. You know who the nicest guy was? I think was Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. You've just so many great.
We had Hacksaw on, and he was, because I'm a fanboy, so when he's the exact guy I watch on TV in real life, I'm like, that's what I want it to be.
Oh, that's so important. That's so great. I'm happy that you did.
And we've got more coming up. Trying to think who else I liked. The Al Snow was great when we had him on with the cast of the show that they did on Netflix, Wrestlers. Mm-hmm. Al Snow was fun. We have, trying to think, we got AJ Francis coming on in a few weeks. He and I had to host all these things together.
He's funny. He's funny. So funny.
He was good. Oh, and he's coming on in a few weeks. and it was everything I hoped it would be. And my editors are gonna kill me. You had Scott Steiner on. Every other word I'm not allowed to put on television. So they're gonna have to bleep everything out. I was like, it was everything I wanted. We had Ron Simmons on. I loved Ron. Ron was great. He's talkative guys. I'm trying to think of people I would love to have on. I mean, I'm an Austin guy. I'd love to get Austin on. We almost had Hulk Hogan on at one point, but that fell through. Because as a media entity, we get these random emails that many times, because it's wrestling, they would ignore, but now they all send them to me.
Oh, good. Okay.
And they're like, yeah, Scott. So we almost had the Hulkster on once. I'd love to get the Hulkster on. We were doing the show when I first met you a year ago, and they were like, we want to do a live show from this wrestling event. And I was struggling to fill time, and Ron Simmons talked, and we started with him, and then I'm like, I'm running out of people. Brutus the Barber Beefcake walks over and takes over the show. It was wonderful. And then, and the guy I didn't really know, he was like the referee in ECW, and I can't think of his name. He came over and just went off, kissed me on the air.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, we made some good television here, so it's a lot of fun.
That's a lot of fun. That is so
and
cool.
Grayson, who we just had on,
yeah.
I love him because every time I talk to him, he is such a dickish heel. And that's what I want. That's what I want. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. So where's your passion? Like helping us tell our stories. We mentioned that.
Yeah.
Helping us develop.
I mean, I want, like, in my dream world, because we have a nice, great studio here.
It's beautiful.
Like, the real world gets the Tonight Show, or they get Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
I would like that for wrestling.
Oh, that'd be so
That would be my dream.
Yeah.
That we get the wrestlers coming through, and I can't do it because I'm not in New York or LA, but Zoom has made everything possible.
Yeah.
There is no limit to who you can get. I would love every week, because my goal in life when I got into television was to host the Tonight Show.
Oh, awesome.
But I've been doing news for 30 years. And now it's kind of gradually getting to that in the wrestling world. So I'm like, this is a lot of fun. So yeah, I would love something like that for wrestling. And I will say this, I'm totally impartial. Like, I am not an AEW mark. I'm not a WWE. Other than you and the people, I mean, I don't have friends in this business. I'm not friends with bookers. I have no skin in this game at all. So I just want to do a show that makes people want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, and I love wrestling, and I'm in wrestling, and you're my friend, and this is fun, and we're Jacksonville folks, and that's really important. And wrestling's coming through here. I feel as though we're a really hot spot, like a good.
We are, because of what obviously the cons have done with AEW. Yes. And WWE comes through here 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
And they're right up I mean, we got I forgot about all the NXT guys we got in the last few months, because they had me come down because we're a CW affiliate that I'm affiliated with, and NXT's on CW, so we've got a relationship there. We're developing these relationships now because we are a mainstream, large, big, mega station, so that helps a lot. Because I don't know if I could just do it on my own in my house.
And I love the fact that independent wrestlers can come and share their story or where they're at.
And I want to pause. If you're an independent wrestler, call me, call Victoria, follow me, message me. I'll have you on the show. I have no limits to who I'll put on.
Like, you know, and that's so great for our economics and to keep the industry growing. And I love both companies. I love all companies, AEW, WWE, so.
And just reach out to me. Like, I'll get you on the show. It's not, I mean, don't be afraid to message me. I'm not that high. It's not like you're messaging Triple H. Just message me.
We need to put the email down below.
But message me at Going Ringside on Instagram or TikTok. That's where I get. You just message me there. I see all of them. It's all I do. I sit and check the messages. So if you want to come on the show, we'll gladly put you on.
Cool. So okay, last question. I feel like I'm, but I could ask you a million questions. It's so interesting to me. It's so interesting because promo day was not my favorite day. I do not like being on promos. I cried my first day. Dusty Rhodes was our instructor, and I was like, "What's promo day?" And I just had a cry fit. So it's just one of those things. Yeah. But however, I'm just so interested how you're interested in helping us tell our stories. You know, it's because I think as well too. We all have social media. The industry is growing. That a mainstream news broadcasting platform is important. It's like it's part of the frequency. It's like.
And I frankly would love if more people talked about us in the wrestling world. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Because I'm just kind of, you and me are pretty much doing this on our own to try and get the name out of this show. No one knows what we are. And the more people, like, if Busted Open does something, everyone in the industry is talking about it. But when Ken Shamrock chokes me out, no one knows about it because no one saw it.
But you know
and
what?
I need that.
Time takes time, right?
Yeah.
Busted Open and Jim Cornette, they have like a lot of respected names and credibility,
Sure,
and
yes,
as
yeah.
industry participants, you know, and then many more, much more. But then being able to share their opinion on their own platform was really important as an independent person, you know, artist, you know, because our experience is important. Our history is important. Each of our history is important.
And I think I'll say this. If you're an indie person and need a professional interview that you don't think you can get on Busted Open, they won't give you the time of day. They won't give you the time of day at, you know, with Cornette or Van Vliet or whoever. I'd be happy to have you on. Just message me. We'll get you on like within, you know, days or a few weeks. And you can share it wherever you like to put yourself over. But yeah, so I'd love, you know, the industry, I welcome them on the show. I mean, if you are a guy wrestling in front of 12 people at a flea market in Dubuque, Iowa, you're welcome on the show.
I did that at
Yeah.
OVW.
There
We
you
did
go.
flea markets.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much about our histories that we can all keep learning and growing, you know? But that's why I love the idea of this like panel long conversation
Sure.
of things that are important, not in a expose way, but in the economics of how this industry can flourish.
And if you ever come on the show, you will be treated well. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to, just because my background is as a TV reporter doesn't mean I take that into this show unless I have to, and I can bring stuff that other people won't. But as far as the talent that come on the show, I'm just here to mark out and put you over.
Yeah,
That's essentially why I'm here.
Get you a good cup of coffee.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate you letting me ask you some
I
questions.
was nervous.
and-
I've been nervous all week. She came to me with this idea saying, I want to ask you the questions. I'm like, okay, well, this is different.
So fun. I love it because, you know, my base is really active. Like, I'm still constantly taking independent matches and I'm asking them questions and they're asking what I'm doing these days, you know, and I share about this. So I think it's important to kind of add context and introduce more of my friends, especially here in the local area. It's really important.
Sure. And once again, if you're in the local area and want to come in studio, we got a lot of room. Just call me and we'll hook that up too.
Yay.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Guys.
And I think we're going to wrap it up here. We've taken a lot of your time with it. And I thank Grayson Waller for coming on the show. And of course, the Chutes and Ladders podcast, another podcast from our area doing great things. So thank you for watching. We'll see you back here next week on Going Ringside.
This has been Going Ringside with The Local Station, brought to you every Wednesday on your favorite podcast player, on News 4 Jax Plus, as well as the News 4 Jax YouTube channel.